Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to another random review. Today's random review comes from 1964, and it comes from Japan, and it's O-Bomb, directed by Kihachi Okamoto, and starring Yunosuke Ito. If you're probably more familiar with Okamoto, with Sword of Doom, and Kill, and The Amazing Samurai Assassin, which are all just wonderful films. But O-Bomb's a little bit different, as in the fact it's a comedy. Now those other films may have moments of black humour, but this is a full-blown comedy, and it's absolutely brilliant. Now, it is quite broad in places, so it might not appeal to everybody. It's a very Japanese sense of humour, but I had tremendous fun with it. Now, Yunosuke Ito, as you can see, you'll recognise him from samurai films. Well, you will recognise him from samurai films, but you'll also recognise him from Kurosawa films and plenty of other films. He's the writer that Takashi Shimura's character meets in Ikiru and kind of shows him round the town. He does have a very long face. He's got a face only a mother could love. On Payday, he has a very comedic face, and he suits this role perfectly. Again, he's more of a supporting character actor, but in this case he gets a starring role, because you can't really imagine one of the big stars pulling this role off successfully the way Ito does. So we start in prison, where Ito's character is just about to be released the day after, in a very kind of pointed, satirical way, which the whole film kind of is. He served 3 years for causing the death of another person. Meanwhile, the young man that he's in with, a character called Taro, who has these ridiculously thick glasses, he's in for 5 years for putting a small bomb in a police box. So again, you can kind of see, I mean, it's post-war because it's set in 1964, but it's obviously almost 20 years after, but you can kind of, the whole film is about kind of changing times, so you can see you're in prison longer for damaging property than you are for actually killing somebody or causing the death of somebody. The prison sequences between the two, where obviously Okamoto kind of shows the joy of Ito's character getting out, but Taro is quite sad because he was hoping that, as he doesn't have any family, that Ito would take him under his wing and make him a Yakuza, but Ito's not really interested in that. It's a very theatrical setup of light and shadow. It's almost on stage, as they almost dance about with each other, and then they come out and Ito's son turns up. Now, Ito apparently has told him he's just out of the country for 3 years and he's not in jail. And his young son is, I don't know, maybe 13, 14. He meets him, but Ito is expecting to go back to his clan. He was expecting them all to be lined up to meet him, and of course nobody meets him. But the son says it's because there's elections going on, and of course elections and democracy are far more important than his old friends meeting him. But Ito soon discovers that the clan or the gang has changed, and he was expecting to come in and kind of take over, or his son is kind of next in line, the generation in the clan, but things have changed. The gang has now become corporate, and there's this character who is now taken over the clan, preaching non-violence, preaching how important the pen is compared to the sword, and he's running for the local council, all of which is just completely abhorrent to Ito, and what he was expecting when he comes out. Obviously he had a mistress when he went in, and that situation's changed. His wife's changed. He's found religion. Again, I'm not going to do justice to this film by describing it, because it's all about Ito's character and his performance, which is just brilliant. Now, the way Okamoto shoots it is completely different to those other Okamoto films that I mentioned. If I was a lazy kind of journalist or something, you would call it zany, or you would call it outrageously entertaining or something like that. He uses lots of kind of new wave techniques, even though he's not necessarily part of the new wave. He uses quick cuts. He uses, there's a song in it. It's ironic that I've just done videos on comedies and musicals, because O Bomb does have a song and dance set piece in it, which almost qualifies it as a musical. It's 95 minutes, but it's just an absolute blast. So Ito's so disgusted with the changes that have been made, and how this kind of shyster has risen to the top. Because again, as somebody who preaches non-violence, obviously that might not necessarily be the case about his character. So after kind of abandoning Taro when they got out of prison, he reconnects, and he decides that he wants Taro to build him an explosive device that blows up the head of the clan, so he can take over. And it's the form of the pen that he kind of holds and wields all the time, and goes about saying our life is now in the pen rather than the sword of violence. So even within all this comedy, Okamoto still creates wonderful tension, as is this whole almost Brissonian with L'Argent and the note passing from person to person. Okamoto manages to create tension as this explosive pen is passed from person to person, and how it ends up. It's rather amusing, but he still manages to create tension in those moments where you think the pen's going to blow up at this point, the pen's going to blow up at this point, the pen's going to blow up at that point. It's just a technically brilliant film. It's paced fantastically. Again, the performances at times are quite broad. That's what the comedy is going for at times, which isn't necessarily everybody's cup of tea. But Ito just has one of those faces that's made for comedy, or tragedy, but in this case it's comedy. There's obviously the satirical points about how Japanese society and on the whole changed after the war, after the occupation by US forces. But it's literally an absolute blast, and I would highly recommend it if you can see it. Again, this is an unofficial DVD, but again, there's just so many Japanese films by wonderful directors that just aren't available on kind of proper releases, which is a real shame. But hopefully eventually we'll get these films the kind of exposure they deserve. As I said in one of my previous videos, I'm going to try and concentrate on clearing my Japanese film backlog. So unfortunately, if you don't like Japanese films, there might be quite a few Japanese films turning up in videos. I'm still going to watch other films, obviously, in between, but as Japan is my favourite film country, I really want to make an effort for the rest of the year to kind of reduce my Japanese backlog. Because again, this came about because I was thinking of doing my favourite 25 Japanese directors, but I had 55 candidates, so I want to give everybody more of a fairer shake before I do that video, which it might end up being next year now, which does mean I will be getting around to Ozu. So I just want to kind of give everybody a fair shake before I kind of do a Japanese director ranking video. I know who my first two are, but the other 23 are somewhat up for debate. So thanks so much for watching this random review of O-Bomb. Please let me know if you've seen O-Bomb and what you think of it, and hopefully you'll join me again for more random reviews. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, saying farewell.